Many of us in this room know that it's true, and some of us are still considering it might be true. You are sacred love. You are sacred peace. You are sacred joy. What if it's true? I ask you to place your hand on your heart right now and take another deep breath. And whispering or simply in the silence of your own heart, let these words be a part of your sacred practice right now. I am sacred love. Say that in your heart right now. I am sacred love. I am sacred love. And now thinking of those that you're holding in your heart. Children, grandchildren, family, friends, community, near and far. Those still living in physical, those now living in non-physical. Let these words be in your heart now. You are sacred love. Whatever is going on in their lives, you know for them. You are sacred love. Now for our whole global family. Our global family in synagogues and temples and mosques and cathedrals and prayer circles, drumming circles, dance circles, all those everywhere coming together to share the spirituality of community. All political parties, all nations, all world leaders, know in your heart right now, you are sacred love. Know this for all world leaders. And for those who've forgotten, sometimes we human beings forget this so much that our actions are actions of unkindness. And so for all of our human family who have forgotten this, we know for them now, you are sacred love. The essence, the core of your being. So before we take a few moments of silence, I want to read these words to you from Matthew Fox. Many are called today to go deeper, to travel deeper, to take on spirituality as distinct from religion. We will all feel the call eventually, consciously or unconsciously. We hear the call from Spirit, from the divine, from Mother Earth, from Gaia. We hear the call from the hearts of our children and grandchildren and our ancestors, and even ancestors yet to come. The call to experience the deepening of metanoia, the conversion, the rebirth, the waking up. And so we wake up to this awareness that we are called to be lovers, more in love with the world than ever, more grateful for existence, more grateful for the nourishing and beautiful earth, for her marvelous life. We are called to be more in love than ever before, struck by reverence and respect for the miracle of our being here, the gift of life in this amazing universe with its 13.8 billion year history. We are called to be lovers and more in love than ever before. In love. So as we take a few moments of silence, we take a few deep breaths and we are invited to be in love, to be love. Time as we take a deep breath, touching your own heart once again, letting those words ring true for you. I am sacred love. We know this for ourselves and all those we're holding in our hearts. For all those that we're holding in prayer, this is a time to say their names out loud if you so wish. For all that we're holding in our hearts, for all we're holding in prayer for our precious world struggling to wake up. Our precious human family deepening into the call to be the presence of love in the world. We give thanks. And we say, so it is. And so we let it be. Namaste. So Bailey's shirt this morning said it all. That's her message this morning. Love. As David says, period, paragraph, end of discussion. It's like this little plaque says, God bless the whole world, no exceptions. There's one downstairs on one of the art tables. God bless the whole world, no exceptions. And then we think of our own lives. God bless all the people I've shared my journey with, no exceptions. God bless all those who helped me to grow. No exceptions. God bless all the former lovers, spouses. God bless all the siblings, mothers, fathers, grandparents. God bless all the employers, former employers, neighbors, former neighbors. God bless all the people who helped to tumble me around and smooth the rough edges and help me to shine. You know that you have deepened into a more aware consciousness when you are able to bless those with whom you had your hardest lessons.
Amen.
I will pause while we reflect. And so if today I'm having trouble blessing those from whom I had my deepest growing lessons, if I'm having trouble blessing them, then I know where my work is. So today we're talking about mindfulness. And it's the title, Waking Up in Mindfulness, comes directly from this book, Waking Up, which they're doing in the Sunday morning circle. And as I told you last week, this writer, at times, I find his writing thrilling, and sometimes I find it quite annoying. And so I bless him from afar. This is an interesting book because he's inviting us into a conversation of what would it be like to live in a world of spirituality rather than religion? And what would it be like if we dropped the things that divide us in religion, and what if we opened up to the deeper spiritual presence? What would our world be without religious disputes? What would our world be like without religious wars? What would our world be like without religious doctrine that tells us that we're anything less than beautiful? What would it be like? And so when we ask ourselves those kinds of questions, we begin to create that kind of world, because we begin to deepen it and feel, what would it be like to live in a world without religious disputes and religious wars? What would it be like? What would it be like if the Israelis and the Muslims and the Jews all met in Jerusalem and had a peace conference and actually created a city of peace, which is what the name means? What would it be like to have peace in the Holy Land? What would it be like? You know, Ireland was able to pull that off, and they're still working on it. But it wasn't so many years ago that every newspaper every morning was about the Catholics and the Protestants fighting in Ireland. Remember that? When I traveled over there were, what do you call those stop points where your car was stopped and they searched the car, they asked for your papers, checkpoint. That wasn't so long ago. What would it be like if we had peace in the Holy Land? And now let's reel that in and bring it on home. What would it be like if we had peace in the Holy Land? What would it be like if we had peace in our own holy land, in our own holy of holies, our hearts, what would it be like if we had peace in our relationships and in our homes, in our neighborhoods? So that's a question that we deepen into when we deepen into mindfulness. Because that's what grows out of mindfulness, peace. Mindfulness. This writer says, being mindful is not a matter of thinking more clearly about experience. It is the act of experiencing more clearly.
Ooh.
Isn't that great?
Mm.
Let's read that together. Being mindful is not a matter of thinking more clearly about experience. It is the act of experiencing more clearly. Did you ever have an event happen and you made up a whole story about it and then
Never.
sometimes within a matter of minutes or hours, sometimes it takes longer, you realize your story was not based on truth at all. Oops. Some of you have heard this story. Take a little nap if you haven't, because there's some here who need to hear this. I was riding home from church one day and passing Brook Green Gardens on my way home, and I saw a black dog on the side of the road. Somebody had hit that dog and just let that dog die and didn't even stop to see what was going on, didn't get it to a vet. What are people thinking? They hit a dog, they just left it to die, and oh, it's a black plastic garbage bag. Within a matter of moments, I mean, it was milliseconds, I had judged my brothers and sisters who hit that dog and did not stop and get it to a veterinarian. Y'all have never done anything like that. That's why I like to test you. You know what the rest of us are dealing with. So let's see what else this writer has to say. His name is Sam Harris, by the way. I saw him on the Bill Maher show, and I thought the whole panel was going to walk off. His book, it brings up some interesting concepts. But he says this, being mindful is a vivid awareness of whatever is appearing in one's mind. A vivid awareness. I mean, you're out driving sometime and you get to your destination, you realize you just weren't there in the car for the last 5 minutes. It is a vivid awareness of whatever is appearing in one's mind or body. Thoughts, sensations, moods. Now here's the kicker. Without grasping at the pleasant or recoiling from the unpleasant. Wow. We do a lot of recoiling from the unpleasant, don't we? But mindfulness is the ability to be in vivid awareness at all times. Everything that's going on in our body, our thoughts, our sensations, our moods, without grasping at the pleasant or recoiling from the unpleasant. That is mindfulness. That's why it takes practice, it seems, to do this mindfulness stuff. Mindfulness, a state of clear, non-judgmental, and undistracted attention to the contents of consciousness, whether pleasant or unpleasant. So, what might we expect in mindfulness? Here's what this writer says we can expect when we practice mindfulness. We no longer suffer certain cognitive and emotional illusions. We could just spend weeks on that number one. We no longer suffer certain cognitive and emotional illusions. We no longer feel identical to our thoughts. There's a lot of practice here. And this guy he professes not to be religious, although I'll share with you in a moment something that he does know about meditation. We no longer feel identical to our thoughts. So when you're having a day where you feel just really low, really, depressed, angry, upset with the world, sometimes we adorable human beings think that that is who we are. It's lovely when we're having a wonderful, lovely day. That's who I am. But then when we're having a blue day, a sad day, bad day, we also think that's who we are. What that is our thoughts, but it's not who we are. We no longer succumb to the primary confusion that thoughts produce in most of us. We no longer are trapped by the confusing thoughts. When we practice mindfulness, we say, oh, that was an interesting thought. And we continue to breathe. Oh, there goes another confusing thought. Okay, I'll continue to breathe. We maintain an openness and serenity of mind. How many of us are still practicing? We maintain openness and serenity of mind. We don't get pulled one way or the other by some circumstance or event. We watch, we observe, we breathe, we ask, what is mine to do? Out of clarity, we take action. Out of peace, we take action. How many of us have taken action out of non-peace? And how many had more consequences to deal with because of that? Okay, so, and also we glimpse the nature of consciousness that liberates us from suffering.
Amen.
And would that be a good idea?
Yes.
To be liberated from suffering. So, in mindfulness, we begin to glimpse, it's what I've said here many times, if we have 1 millisecond of the awakened consciousness, then that is what we can tap back into with our own human will. That's what the Daily Word talked about today. If I've had 1 glimpse of awakened consciousness, I can revisit that place of awakened consciousness. Even if I'm in the middle of a bus station where everybody around me is going nuts, I can, like the time in the LA airport when they were shooting at airplanes after the Rodney King trial, we just sat down and breathed. And prayed. Sometimes that's all we can do. We glimpse the nature of consciousness that liberates us. We can revisit that. You know, I know people who said to me, they are spiritual giants. They've done the work. And then something, their lives take them somewhere and they don't remember how beautifully magnificent they are. And I have learned, and I know you have too, that once we feel it, we can revisit it, that place, that consciousness, that awareness, can't we?
Yes.
Raise your hand.
Absolutely.
There you go. They're out there. I think they were there. So there's another book that I've read. Oh, first of all, don't let me leave Sam Harris too quick. He gives a plug for Vipassana meditation. How many of you know about Vipassana meditation? And it grows out of apparently the oldest form of Buddhism. And Vipassana is a form of meditation that was highlighted in a film called The Dhamma Brothers. We showed it here a couple of times. And it's a form of meditation that's being taught in prisons, in schools, in corporate settings, because you don't have to adhere to any religious doctrine in order to learn this form of meditation. And one of the places it was taught was a maximum security prison in Alabama. That's like same-sex marriage passing in South Carolina. Teaching Vipassana meditation in a maximum security prison in Alabama. Can we pause and just reflect on that? And in this group of men who will probably not get out of prison, some of them will literally, most of them won't, they're saying that they feel more liberated in the practice of this meditation than they ever felt outside of the prison walls. Now that's a clue. Because we may not be sitting in literal prisons, but how many of us have felt imprisoned from time to time? So, this idea of meditation, I know who you are. I don't like to meditate. I know, but this is something that's been so well researched. It's worth your time to look into it.
Amen.
And to consider it. So one of the biggest meditation teachers in the world right now, Jack Kornfield, he says this in his book, A Lamp in the Darkness, and I got this in our fabulous bookstore downstairs. Thank you, Anne-Marie, for ordering this. Lamp in the Darkness, Illuminating the Path Through Difficult Times. He says mindfulness is a balanced, kind, non-judging attention. I'm going to read that again. Mindfulness is a balanced, kind, non-judging attention. Just that alone takes a lot of practice. We free ourselves from reactivity and respond wisely. Mindfulness leads to healing and the end of sorrow and grief and brings liberation. So this is what he talks about. He talks about Dharma, a Sanskrit word meaning truth or the path to truth, the elements of life. And he talks in this book about the mindfulness of Dharma. And he says this: the path to truth, or Dharma, is seeing the big picture. The ever-changing play of opposites, the web of birth and death, joy and sorrow that continuously create the universe. When we're in mindfulness, we see the tentativeness of physical incarnation in this world. We make our peace with the limits of the body. With mindfulness, we acknowledge the river of feelings and the endless play of thoughts. Wakeful and free, we learn to rest in the vastness. This is the Dharma in the Dharma. We come to realize the essential emptiness of all experience and open to it as it is, ephemeral and ungraspable. That's such a cool word. I want y'all to say it with me because it makes your lips tingle. Ungraspable. Say it again. Ungraspable. Isn't that fun? It's like saying Charlie Sweet, one of our favorite singers. The idea that we're living in the vastness of the universe and the mystery can feel ungraspable. And when we become comfortable with that, when we can sense ourselves in the huge vastness, when we can sense ourselves in the huge mystery and the wonder of it all, we begin to relax a little bit. We can relax when things feel uncertain. Things feel uncertain. Things feel uncertain all the time, don't they? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's always something changing. Gilda Radner said it's always something. It's always something. And so how much of my life have I given over my precious life energy to worrying about one thing or another and getting upset about one thing or another? When I can practice mindfulness, when I can practice knowing myself as a part of the vast unfolding universe, when I can feel myself a part of the great river of consciousness, that I have a part in awakening, I have a part in the evolution of humankind. When I can grasp that, I can relax a bit and let loose of the reins. Would that be okay? Mm-hmm. Would it be okay?
Yes.
To give up the idea that you can control anything. What we can be responsible for is what we do with our own minds, our own thoughts, our own consciousness. And like Bailey brought the message today, I can more easily relax into being a presence of love rather than a presence of anything else. Because love is like the rainbow. It contains all the colors, all the colors. Thich Nhat Hanh calls mindfulness looking deeply. You know, I had a dream about Thich Nhat Hanh the other night, and it was before the latest round of Facebook messages about him, many people around the world being in prayer for him as his body is going through some challenges. And in the dream, David and I were with a group of people, and we were with Thich Nhat Hanh, and we were having our picture made together as a group. And I turned to Thich Nhat Hanh, I said, you know, a lot of people think that you're really sick right now, and things aren't going well for your body, and there's a lot of people praying for you. And he said, I better make a phone call and let them know. I better make a phone call and let them know I'm really doing great. Better make that phone call and let everybody know I'm just doing fabulous. And that's the truth of it.
Yes.
Thich Nhat Hanh is knowing that all is well. Even when the body is going through challenges, all is well. Even when the world is struggling to wake up and birth its magnificence, even amongst the struggles and amidst the confusion, all is well. That's what comes out of mindfulness. Whether we're chanting for it, like Marlene and David in their Buddhist group, whether we're in prayer about it, or whether we're in silence about it, that's what we reach when we deepen into mindfulness. Get the big picture. Reach for the big picture. There's lots of little pictures. That's where movies and books come from, and isn't it fun to go to the movies and see the Hunger Games and watch the cars get blown up? Oh, it's fun. It must be because we have a multi-billion-dollar industry making movies so we can watch the illusion. But guess what happens in mindfulness? It's like waking up in a movie theater and realizing, oh, I'm watching a movie. But there's something behind the movie. Mindfulness. What's behind my thoughts of confusion? What's behind my thoughts of unforgiveness? What's behind my thoughts of fear? What is the presence that's watching me as I'm watching the world? Last week, Michael, Charlene's grandson, he was up here, and we were talking about the angels singing the day he was born. And I said, you know, there's sometimes angels all around us. I said, as a matter of fact, you're an angel. He said, yes. And sometimes I'm a vampire. One of my favorite shows used to be the Art Linkletter show. Remember when he worked with the kids? Mm-hmm. I just love that, because isn't that the truth? Mm-hmm. I mean, sometimes the word is love, but sometimes we could be wearing a t-shirt warning people, you know, stand back, I'm a vampire. You know, sometimes we know ourselves as the heavenly, divine presence. Sometimes we know it so well that we see others as the heavenly, divine presence. Sometimes, if I'm a vampire, I may not see you as the heavenly presence. You see how that works? So if I'm practicing mindfulness enough, I'm going to be operating from that reservoir knowing all is well, all is divine, even when it looks like the great shaking up. And that's what we're living through right now, the great shaking up. Isn't it exciting that we took physical birth to be here right now? So I want to close today with a prayer that we used at Richard Levy's memorial comes from the Tibetan book of the Living and Dying. And this is a prayer I've been working with all week for myself. And they said this prayer a lot to Richard in the last days of his physical life. And we said it as a meditation and prayer at the close of his memorial. So I want to read it for us. And you might find something in it that could work for you. Or you might know somebody that it could work for. And so you think of them as we listen to these words. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
So with eyes closed or open, you decide. And I'm going to read this with the word we. So it's for all of us, and it's for all that we're holding in our hearts. May we always live as love. May we release any ties that bind us to anything other than love. May we be free from anger. May we be free of the ties of unhealthy anger that bind us. May we be free from greed. May we move beyond the appearance of outer satisfaction and always remember that we are whole and complete just as we are. May we be free from ignorance. May we cause no harm to ourselves or others due to ignorance. May we be free from doubt. May we always remember we are children of God. We are existence, consciousness, and bliss, love and joy. May we move forward with ease and grace. May we be free from jealousy. May we always look upon ourselves and others with compassion and kindness. May we be free from pride and judgment of ourselves and others. May we be wise and always recognize the oneness of all beings. May we move forward with ease and grace. For ourselves, for all that we're holding in our hearts, our human family,